Okay, so let's just jump right in. We've all been told that being smart is this incredible advantage, right? But what if that same sharp mind you're so proud of is also the secret sauce of your anxiety? What if it's the very thing that's quietly destroying your peace? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. It's the perfect way to start because it gets right to the core of this whole paradox. The idea that seeing everything doesn't necessarily make you free. Sometimes it feels like the complete opposite, like you're trapped by what you know. This really sets the stage for the 5 big psychological costs we're about to unpack.
So, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. You know, society puts a high IQ on a pedestal, but the research, it tells a slightly different story. It shows that having a powerful mind often comes with these hidden price tags. So in this explainer, we're going to walk through 5 of them, and hopefully help you reframe some things that might feel like personal flaws into what they really are, just the natural consequences of a very active brain.
All right, first up, the analysis paralysis trap. This one is for anyone out there who feels like their brain just doesn't have an off switch.
Does this sound like you? Constantly running simulations for the future, analyzing every possible risk, and oh man, replaying conversations over and over again? What a lot of us just call anxiety is actually something researchers call cognitive depth. It's basically your brain's processing power being stuck in overdrive. It's just always on. And all that overprocessing leads directly to this, analysis paralysis. And look at how it's defined here. It's not about a lack of choices, it's the fact that you can see too many choices. Your ability to map out 20 different paths and all the things that could go wrong with each one creates this mental weight that just crushes your ability to take that first step. Now let's look at how this really intense internal world starts to affect our connection with everyone else. This brings us to our second point, the loneliness of insight.
You know, there's actually a name for this feeling, the isolation of insight. It's that weird sense of detachment you get when you're the only one in the room who sees the little patterns, the hidden motives behind what someone's saying, or the tiny cracks in a story that just don't add up. And the really hard part? Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Naturally, this can make you want to pull back from people. But here's the really important part. It's not because you're arrogant or think you're better than everyone. It's a withdrawal that comes from a deep, fundamental need for depth, you know? Small talk can feel painfully boring when your mind is just wired to see everything that's going on beneath the surface.
And this quote just captures that social cost perfectly. Think about it. When you're the person who asks the hard questions about things everyone else just accepts without thinking, you're not just making conversation. You're actually threatening their comfort. And all of a sudden, being right can make you feel like a total outsider.
That feeling of being an outsider leads us right into our third point, which is really about the weight that comes with seeing the big picture. This is the burden of awareness. This often shows up as what we call existential anxiety. I mean, if you're the one who's constantly wrestling with these huge questions about meaning, about purpose, about what's right and wrong, while it seems like everyone else is just fine, well, you're not crazy. Your mind is just working on a different scale. And yeah, it can be really lonely.
And this constant high-level awareness, it's not peaceful. It's a heavy burden. It's like you're carrying around all these complex truths that people around you don't even seem to notice. And that leads to this state of cognitive overload, where you feel genuinely exhausted just from thinking.
Okay, so we've talked about how a sharp mind looks at the world. But what happens when it turns that same intense focus inward on itself? That brings us to our fourth point, perfectionism's heavy crown.
Here's the trap, right? A mind that can imagine the most perfect, beautiful outcome can, with the exact same clarity, imagine every single possible way that it could all go wrong. So these incredibly high standards you set for yourself, they come hand in hand with this deep, deep fear of not meeting them. And this is what that fear can build. Psychologists call it conditional self-worth. If you were the smart kid growing up, this one's probably going to hit home. You learn to basically fuse your identity with how smart you are. So you only feel valuable as long as you're performing, as long as you're the smartest person in the room. Your worth isn't just a given. It feels like something you have to earn every single day.
So let me just ask you this directly. Does failure feel fatal? When you make a mistake, does it feel less like a learning experience and more like a final judgment on who you are as a person? If it does, you are definitely carrying this heavy crown. So what happens when you put all of this together? The constant analysis, the isolation, that existential dread, and the intense perfectionism. Well, you get our fifth and final point, a mind that becomes the unrelenting watchtower.
At this point, the real danger is that your mind can no longer look away. It becomes hypervigilant. It's the state where your brain literally cannot turn off and relax. It's always scanning, always analyzing, always expecting the worst and reading into every little detail of every interaction. It's exhausting. And this is so important to understand. A sharp mind, when it's left completely unchecked, stops being a gift. It becomes a tool for its own self-destruction. The bottom line is, awareness without any balance isn't intelligence, it's just torment.
Okay, I know that all sounds incredibly heavy. So now what? What's the way out? Well, the answer isn't to become less smart. It's about learning a completely new skill, the art of learning to feel lighter.
In this quote, this is it. This is the key. This is the shift we all need to make. Real wisdom isn't about being able to analyze everything to death. It's having the discernment to know when to stop decoding and just live.
And this lays it out perfectly. At the end of the day, you have a choice. Is your mind going to be a cage, trapping you in all this over-awareness and paralysis and isolation? Or are you going to learn to use it as the powerful tool it's meant to be? A tool for action and connection and feeling lighter.
Ultimately, it all boils down to this one simple shift in perspective. You've probably spent your whole life trying to see deeper, think harder, understand more. But maybe, just maybe, the real path to peace isn't found in intellectual depth, but in emotional lightness.
So, as we close this out, I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. After everything we've talked about, be honest with yourself for a second. Is your brain a tool that you use, or is it a cage that you're stuck in?